The sun was folding itself behind the Chihuahuan horizon when Deputy Marshal Cole Hartley boarded the westbound train. Steam hissed, wheels groaned, and the metal of the handcuffs in his grip felt colder than the night. Across from him sat the woman everyone in Santa Rosa swore was guilty. Mira Dalton. Black hair pinned back, wrists shackled, chin steady. Too steady. Cole had arrested killers, thieves, swindlers, but something about her unsettled him. Not fear, something closer to doubt. She had surrendered without protest. Walked into his custody as if she'd been expecting it, almost. Relieved. The conductor stepped past, giving Mira a wide berth. Cole cleared his throat. "You'll get your trial in El Paso," he said, more gently than he intended. "Judge Porter's fair. He'll hear you out." Mira lifted her gaze. Her eyes weren't the eyes of a criminal at all. They were calm, calculating, and tired, like someone who'd run out of places to run. "You think I did it," she said. Cole shifted in his seat. "My job isn't thinking. My job is getting you there." She looked out the window, watching the desert darken into a sheet of indigo. "You arrested the wrong person, Deputy. And when we reach El Paso, I'm going to prove it." He didn't answer. Innocent folks always claimed that, but then she added something that froze him, clean through. "Because while the robbery was happening," she murmured, "I was with you." Cole's pulse thudded. "That's impossible." You don't remember," she said. "But you were there. We spoke. You even handed me something." Cole's breath caught. "What exactly are you saying?" "That I'm your alibi," she replied softly. "And you're mine." The train lurched forward, cutting the night in half. Cole stared at her, unsure whether she was lying, delusional, or holding a truth he didn't know he'd lost. But one thing became certain as the train rattled toward El Paso. He wasn't escorting a prisoner. He was escorting the only person who could destroy or save his life. Asterisk, asterisk. The train swayed, lanterns flickering as the wheels clattered over the tracks. Cole Hartley had been in gunfights, stampedes, prison riots. Never once had he felt unsteady. But Mira Dalton's words rattled him harder than any bullet. "Start talking," he said, keeping his voice low. Mira leaned her head back against the worn leather seat, the shackles clinking softly. "You don't remember seeing me at the Eagle Ridge Depot 3 nights ago?" Cole frowned. 3 nights ago he'd been there, sure, but it had been routine. A supply check, a brief talk with the station master, nothing more. No memory of Mira, no exchange, no anything. "You're lying," he said, but even he could hear his doubt. "If I were lying," Mira said calmly, "I'd have picked an alibi that wasn't a federal officer." That part stung because it made too much sense. The train rattled through a narrow canyon, moonlight slivering in through the window and outlining her face. She didn't look triumphant. She looked desperate. "What's your game?" Cole asked. "No game. Just the truth." She wet her lips, hesitating. "You gave me a piece of paper, Deputy. Folded. Burnt at the edges. You said, 'Take this and disappear before someone recognizes you.'" Cole sat back, heart drumming. "What paper?" "I didn't open it," she said. "I wasn't stupid enough to, not in public. I hid it." And then, she exhaled slowly, "Then someone robbed the county treasury that same night. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone saw me with you. They assumed you were warning me. And suddenly, I'm the prime suspect." Cole cursed under his breath. Mira continued, voice tight. "I was going to bring you that paper myself. But before I could, you came for me with Shackles." Cole's jaw tightened. If any of this was true, then someone had set them both up. He reached for her wrists, checking the locks, not to free her, but to steady himself. "I don't recall giving you anything," he said. "And I sure don't recall talking to you." "Then someone made sure you wouldn't," she replied. Someone with a reason to erase that memory. Cole's chest tightened. He suddenly remembered the pounding headache he'd had the morning after Eagle Ridge, the metallic taste in his mouth. The gap in his recollection he'd chalked up to exhaustion. Mira watched him carefully. "You're starting to remember, aren't you?" He didn't answer. Couldn't, because the train whistle screamed then one long, eerie blast that didn't sound like a signal. It sounded like a warning. A second later, the lights in the train flickered. Then the coach behind them went dark. Cole stood, hand on his revolver. Mira tensed despite the chains. "What's happening?" she whispered. Cole's voice came out steady, all martial again. "Someone doesn't want either of us reaching El Paso." The train slowed, not the gentle easing of brakes, but a sudden dragging shudder that sent dust drifting from the overhead racks. Cole braced himself against the seat as the coach rattled like a can in a rock slide. Mira's eyes flashed. "That's not a scheduled stop." "No," Cole muttered, already drawing his revolver. "It ain't." The lantern above them sputtered, but held its flame. The coach behind them stayed pitch-black silent, too silent. Cole had spent enough years hauling prisoners to know the rhythm of a train. The background noise of passengers, chewing tobacco, quiet talk. Footsteps in the aisle. Now there was nothing, not a whisper, not a shuffle, not a single breath. Cole stepped into the aisle. "Stay put," he warned. Mira lifted her cuffed wrists. "I don't exactly have options." He moved toward the back door, boots soundless on the worn wooden floorboards. The train was hardly crawling now, wheels screeching against the rails. As if fighting to stay in motion, Cole pressed his ear to the door that separated their coach from the next. Silence. Too complete to be natural. He flicked the latch and pushed the door open a crack. A cold gust swept over him, and he froze. The coach behind them was empty. Not abandoned. Emptied. Suitcases still sat in the overhead nets. Coats still hung on hooks. A child's ragdoll lay in the aisle where it had been dropped. But not a single passenger remained. Cole's stomach knotted. He stepped fully inside the dark coach, his lantern sweeping across vacant seats and forgotten belongings. No signs of struggle. No blood. No tracks. Just gone. As if every soul had stood up and walked out at once. He scanned the floor. Then he saw it small, metallic, glinting under the lantern light. A spent dart. His throat tightened. Not a bullet. A dart. Someone had drugged the entire coach. He crouched, picked it up carefully, and turned it in the light. Then he heard footsteps behind him. He spun around, but it was Mira. Shackles clinking, standing in the doorway, breathing hard from the walk. "You told me to stay put," she said, voice low. "But you also told me someone might want us dead. I'm not sitting alone waiting for that." Cole held up the dart between his fingers. "This is why they ain't moving," he said. "They were taken. Taken where?" Mira whispered. Cole exhaled slowly. "Off this train, I reckon." "In a hurry." Mira's expression tightened. "Whoever did it. They weren't after passengers." "No," Cole said softly, dread rising like a tide. "They were after us." A crunch sounded outside, the unmistakable sound of boots on gravel. More than one pair. Cole doused the lantern instantly. "Get down," he hissed. Mira dropped to her knees beside him. Chains scraping softly. Through the window, silhouettes approached. 3, 4. Maybe more, moving along the side of the slow-rolling train with purpose. Searching. Hunting. Someone had gone to great lengths to erase a memory, frame a woman, and stop a marshal from delivering her alive. And now they were here to finish what they started. Cole gripped his revolver. Mira gripped her breath. Outside, a voice murmured, "Check every coach. Don't let the marshal see daylight." Cole's jaw tightened. "Looks like we ain't macking it to El Paso tonight," he whispered. The train had slowed to a crawl, barely pushing through the desert night. Outside, Boots shuffled across gravel, whispers threading through the wind like snakes in dry grass. Cole held his breath. Mira stayed low beside him. Cuffs pressed against the floorboards, eyes wide but steady. He peeked through the window just enough to glimpse shadows moving along the train's edge. 4 men, maybe 5. Bandanas over their faces, guns drawn. Moving with the confidence of men who had done this before. They weren't robbers. They were professionals. And that meant one thing. Someone hired them. Cole pulled Mira gently by the arm. "We're moving. With Shackles?" She whispered. "We ain't stayin' here," he whispered back. "Someone opens that door, we're dead before we get a word out." He guided her to the narrow passage between the cars, the train groaning beneath their feet. The wind hit them hard, carrying dust, grit, and the metallic bite of danger. The footsteps outside grew louder. Closer. They were checking each coach one by one. Cole scanned the roof access ladder bolted to the side of the car. "Not ideal, but neither was dying," he pointed up. "Climb." Mira blinked. "With what hands, Cole?" "Right, the cuffs." He holstered his gun, stepped in close, and without warning lifted her by the waist. She let out a tiny gasp. "You could have asked." "No time for manners," he grunted, pushing her upward until her fingers hooked onto the railing. She hauled herself up with surprising strength. Cole climbed after her just as a gunman yanked open the coach door beneath them. "Check this one." He might have doubled back. Cole froze halfway up the ladder. The lantern light from below cast shadows that stretched onto the ground. If they looked up. "Even an inch, Cole," Mira whispered urgently from above. "Move." He climbed the last rungs and rolled onto the roof beside her. The metal vibrating beneath them as the train dragged forward. The night wind stung their faces. The moon carved silver lines across the desert. Mira crawled on her elbows, using her chained wrists like a single brace. Cole stayed close behind her, shielding her silhouette from the watchful eyes below. Then he heard it. A man shouting from inside the dark coach. "They're not here." Another voice cursed. "Find him before the marshal figures out the rest. We can't let him remember." Mira tensed. "You hear that?" "I did," Cole said. "And I don't like what it means." Wind whipped around them as the train entered a long moonlit stretch of desert. On the roof, every movement felt loud, exposed. Then Mira tapped his arm sharply. "Cole, look." Far ahead, maybe half a mile down the tracks. A faint orange glow pulsed in the darkness. A fire. No, not just a fire. A signal. Someone was waiting for the train to arrive. Cole's chest tightened. "They're herding us." "Like cattle," Mira whispered. The men below were spreading out, searching the next coach. They'd be on the roof soon. Cole made a decision. "Hold tight." He grabbed Mira's chained wrists, spun her gently, and snapped the small steel ring where the chain met the hinge on the coach roof's metal ridging. A trick he'd learned years back. The hinge bent just enough for the chain to slip free. Mira gasped softly, rubbing her sore wrists. "You unlocked me." "No," Cole said. "I unchained you." Big difference. Her eyes shone with something he didn't have time to name. Below, boots hit the ladder. Someone was climbing. Cole drew his revolver. Mira grabbed a loose piece of roof piping. He met her eyes. "Ready?" He whispered. She nodded. "For whatever comes." The first gunman's head appeared over the edge. Cole didn't wait. He lunged. In the battle for the last train to El Paso began on a rooftop of rattling steel and desert wind. The first gunman barely had time to register Cole's silhouette before the marshal slammed into him, knocking them both sideways on the rattling roof. The man's rifle skidded across the metal, sparking against the rivets before tumbling into the darkness below. They grappled, boots scraping for grip. The train clattered over uneven tracks, jolting violently. Cole's fingers clamped around the man's wrist, forcing the barrel of a revolver away from Mira. "Drop it." Cole growled. The man spat a curse and drove his elbow into Cole's ribs. Pain exploded through him. Cole gritted his teeth and twisted hard. The gunman's wrist snapped with a sickening pop. The revolver fell. Mira snatched it before it slid off the edge. Another shout cut through the wind. "Cole! Behind you!" Cole rolled just as the second attacker climbed onto the roof. This one was larger, heavier, carrying a sawed-off shotgun. Moonlight flashed on the barrels as he lifted it. Cole's throat tightened. He wasn't close enough. Couldn't reach him in time, but Mira could, with both hands. She raised the stolen revolver still cuffed at the hinge, but free enough to aim and fired. The bullet clipped the shotgun barrel, knocking it aside. The blast erupted harmlessly into the sky, lighting the desert in a brief thunderous flash. "Hell!" The gunman cursed, staggering. Cole sprang forward, tackling him. The two rolled dangerously close to the roof's edge, gravel spraying as the train picked up speed again. Cole managed to brace his boot against a vent grill and used the leverage to slam the man's head against the metal. Once, twice. The body went limp. Cole dragged himself upright, chest heaving, ribs throbbing. Mira crawled over to him, breath ragged. "You all right?" she asked. "Better than them," he muttered. But the worst wasn't over. A whistle blew in the distance, the same orange glow ahead, now burning brighter. Men on horseback waited near the tracks, and the fire wasn't a signal. It was a blockade, a pile of burning logs and scrap metal lay across the rails, sending embers spiraling into the night. "If the train hit that at full speed, we gotta jump," Mira said quietly. Cole followed her gaze. About 50 yards ahead, the train would derail. The engineers must have been subdued, maybe even taken, because nobody was slowing the engine. Cole grabbed Mira's forearm. "We jumped together. On my count." She nodded, eyes blazing with fear and trust. Behind them, a third gunman climbed onto the roof. Cole didn't have time for subtlety. "Now!" he shouted. He wrapped an arm around Mira's waist and leapt off the roof. Just as bullets tore through the air behind them, the desert ground rushed up fast. They hit it hard, rolling through sand, rocks cutting at their skin, wind knocked from their lungs. Mira cried out, clutching her shoulder. Cole dug his boots into the earth until they scraped to a stop. Second later, boom. Train hit the blockade and derailed in a roaring explosion of fire and twisted steel. Cars buckled, wheels tore off, sparks flooded the night sky like falling stars. Mira stared at the wreckage, trembling. They just destroyed an entire train to kill us." "No," Cole said, pulling her behind a low ridge as horses galloped toward the crash site. "They destroyed it to erase us." Dozens of riders converged on the wreck, rifles ready. Mira swallowed hard. This is bigger than a robbery, isn't it?" Cole watched the men search the flaming wreckage, looking for two bodies that weren't there. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Much bigger." Mira turned to him. "So what now?" Cole tightened his grip on his revolver. "Now," he said, "we find out who's afraid of the truth you've got, and why they want me dead before I remember it." She nodded. Then a new voice echoed across the desert, loud, commanding, "Spread out." The marshal and the woman survived the fall. "Bring me their bodies before sunrise." Mira's blood ran cold. "Cole, whose voice is that?" Cole didn't answer because he recognized it, and it wasn't the voice of a criminal. It was the voice of someone Cole had trusted his entire career. Mira's question hung in the night air, trembling like a wire pulled too tight. "Cole, whose voice is that?" Cole didn't speak. Coulden, single quotes D. The riders fanned out across the desert, torches swaying, rifles glinting beneath the moon. The leader sat tall on a sandstone-colored horse, silhouetted against the burning ruin of the train. Even at a distance, Cole recognized the stance. The straight spine, The confident posture of a man used to giving orders and having them followed without question. Marshal Ryland Cade, Cole's mentor. His commanding officer. The man who'd pinned his badge to his chest 8 years ago and told him, "Truth is your only master." Now he was hunting him like an outlaw. Mira stepped closer. "Cole?" His jaw tightened. "It's Cade." Her eyes widened. "You're Marshal?" He set us up." Cole's breath shuddered in his chest. "I don't know. Not for certain. But he's here, and he ain't looking to talk." They crouched behind the ridge as Cade dismounted, boots crunching on gravel. The fire behind him painted his face in a hellish orange glow. Even from afar, Cole saw his expression. Cold, determined, ruthless. "Find their bodies," Cade ordered. "They couldn't have gone far. And if their breathing end it." One of the riders spoke nervously. "Marshal, why not take 'em alive?" Cade's head snapped toward him. "Because dead folks don't talk." Cole felt Mira tremble beside him. "Why would he want you dead?" She whispered. "Why erase both of us?" Cole closed his eyes. A memory tugged at him, foggy, broken, but there, a dim corner of Eagle Ridge Depot. Mira's silhouette, a scrap of burnt paper in his hand. And a second figure in that dim light, tall, broad-shouldered. Cade. Cole single quotes S-pulse hammered. The missing memory wasn't gone, it had been stolen. He looked at Mira. Whatever was on that paper. Cade didn't want us knowing it. A shout cut through the night. They found tracks. Boots thundered toward their direction. Torches bobbed like hungry eyes. "We gotta move," Cole said, grabbing Mira's hand. "Now." She followed without question, the two of them slipping deeper into the ravine. Staying low as the slope hid them from the riders above. But the desert was unforgiving, flat. Open. Echoing every sound, riders split into pairs. Circling outward. The hunt was tightening like a noose. Mira's breath hitched. "Cole, we won't outrun horses." "Don't plan to," he muttered. "We're heading someplace horses can't go." He pointed toward a narrow break in the ridgeline, dark, jagged, half hidden by boulders. A canyon. Steep, treacherous, and tight enough that riders couldn't chase without dismounting. But before they reached it, a shot cracked behind them. The bullet slammed into the dirt, inches from Mira's boot. "Cole!" She gasped. "Keep running." Voices erupted behind them. "There! South Ridge. Don't let him reach the canyon." More shots fired. Dust exploded around their feet. Cole yanked Mira behind a cluster of rocks, shielding her with his body as bullets ricocheted off stone. "We're pinned," Mira whispered. "No," Cole said, drawing a deep breath. "We're making a stand." Mira stared at him. "You think two people with one gun can hold off a dozen armed riders?" Cole checked the revolver. 3 bullets left. "Not for long," he said. "Just long enough." "For what?" He met her eyes steady, determined, for the truth to come back. Because if Cade wanted him dead that badly, then whatever Cole had forgotten wasn't just dangerous. It was fatal. Hooves thundered closer. "Mira." "Grip the stolen revolver." Cole raised his. "On my mark, ye." Whispered. The riders crested the ridge. Torches flared. Guns lifted. Cole steadied his breath. "Mark." They fired into the night. Gunfire cracked across the desert ridge. Bullets sparking against rock, tearing fist-sized chunks from the stone around. Cole and Mira. Cole fired back with precision, one shot forcing a rider to duck, another spooking a horse into rearing. Mira aimed carefully, hands steady despite the tremor in her breath. 3 shots left. 2. The riders fanned out, using the higher ground to their advantage. Cade's men weren't amateurs, they were trained, disciplined, and moving in coordination. This wasn't a posse. This was an execution squad. "We can't hold him, Cole." Mira shouted, ducking as a bullet whined past her ear. "We ain't holding him," Cole said. We're by in seconds. For what? Cole pointed to the canyon gap behind them, the narrow slit in the stone that plunged steeply downward. From afar it looked like a dead end, but Cole knew better. He'd ridden this land before. That canyon was known as Echo's Spine, a twisting choke of rock where sound repeated for miles, and riders risked broken necks if they tried to follow it. Speed not their only shot, but reaching it under fire meant exposing themselves. Cole holstered the revolver, braced himself, and grabbed Mira's waist. "What are you?" "On my signal," he said. "You run. Don't look back." "Cole, do it." Her eyes locked with his fear and faith battling between them. Then he stood, arms wide, drawing every gunman's aim. "Hey!" Cole roared. "Come and get me." Gunfire erupted toward him in a deadly hail. "Go!" he bellowed. Mira sprinted for the canyon. Cole dove behind a boulder, bullets shredding the sand around him. He grabbed the revolver again, just in time to see a rider break from the group, angling to intercept Mira. "Not a chance," Cole growled. He fired. The rider toppled off his horse, hitting the ground hard. One bullet left. Mira reached the canyon entrance, slipping into the dark throat of the stone. Cole turned and ran. Bullets chased him like angry hornets. A searing pain tore across his shoulder. He didn't stop. The canyon grew closer, each step hammering agony through his ribs. He leapt inside just as a final round exploded against the rock beside his head. Inside Echo's Spine, the world changed. The canyon walls closed around them, cool and narrow, turning every breath into a whispering echo. The path angled down sharply, forcing them into single file. Cole pressed a hand to his bleeding shoulder. Mira saw it and rushed back to him. "You're hit." "It's a graze," he said, wincing. "Hurts like hell, but I'll live." She tore a strip from her sleeve and pressed it to his wound. "Hold still." Even under pressure and fear, her touch was gentle. It surprised him more than the pain. "You saved me back on that roof," she murmured. "I won't lose you now." Their eyes met. For a second, the world shrank to just the two of them, blood dust, and the fragile thread tying their fates together. Shouts echoed at the canyon mouth. "Down there! Go after him!" Cade's voice followed, furious and close. "Bring them to me alive or dead. I don't care which." Cole grabbed Mira's hand. "We move. Fast." They descended deeper into Echo's Spine, where the canyon walls twisted and swallowed the moonlight. The sound of pursuit grew faint, bouncing off the narrow stone corridors in confusing echoes. Eventually the noise faded entirely. Only then did Mira speak. "What now?" "We can't go back. Can't go forward without a plan." Cole exhaled, his breath misting in the cool canyon air. "Now," he said, "we figure out what Cade's hiding. Because whatever was on that paper, whatever I gave you, it's worth killing half the territory to keep quiet." Mira hesitated. "Cole, I didn't just hide that paper." He stopped. "I buried it," she said quietly. "Someplace not even a hangman could find." Cole's heartbeat quickened. "Where?" "Ahead of us. In a place no one in Cade's posse would dare go." She nodded deeper into the canyon, where a faint rumble of underground water echoed. Cole stiffened. The Devil's Wash, the deadliest maze of caverns in the entire frontier. Mira gave him a grim half-smile. "Then we better hope your memory comes back before we reach it." The deeper Cole and Mira moved into Echo's Spine. The more the world shifted, sand to stone, heat to cold, open sky to jagged shadows. The air thickened with damp earth and the distant rush of underground water. Cole wiped blood from his shoulder, breathing through the pain. Mira stayed close, one hand lightly holding the wall to keep balance in the narrowing passage. At last the canyon widened abruptly, revealing a yawning crack in the earth, an entrance that seemed to swallow light itself. The Devil's Wash. A Labyrinth of caverns carved by flash floods over centuries. 4 out of 5 who entered never came out. So the story said. Mira stopped at the threshold. They won't follow us in here, she said. Because they don't want to die, Cole replied. And because they don't want the truth found, Mira added. Her voice echoed faintly, the cavern already playing tricks on their senses. Cole looked at her, jaw tight. Tell me exactly why you're so sure the answer's in there. She swallowed hard. Because that was where we met. Cole stiffened. Mira, I've never... You have, she said gently. You just don't remember. The words hit him like a hammer. Mira guided him deeper inside, her footsteps careful and sure, as if she'd walked this place 100 times. We didn't meet at the depot, she said quietly. We met here, 2 nights before the robbery. You came in wounded, same shoulder. Said you were being followed. Cole's breath caught. She continued, voice steady but soft. You collapsed halfway through the tunnels. I dragged you to a dry chamber and patched you up. And that's when you gave me the paper. Cole stared at her. Why would I go into a place like this? I know these caverns. Nobody comes in unless they're desperate. Mira nodded. Exactly. You told me someone was after you. Someone from your own ranks. Cade. Cole felt it like a fist to the ribs. Then you told me, Mira said, eyes gleaming in the dim. If something happened to you, if your memory got wiped or you ended up dead, make sure the message got to El Paso. Cole's pulse hammered. The message. The paper. Mira exhaled. I buried it in the only place the ground stays dry. A hidden shelf above an old flood chamber. No one will find it unless they know where to look. Cole rubbed the bridge of his nose. His memories were still foggy, but a flicker, just a flicker surfaced. A torch, water dripping. A woman's silhouette leaning over him, face blurred with worry. Mira. She watched him carefully. You're remembering. Pieces, he admitted. Not enough. A sudden rumble shook the cavern. Mira stiffened. That's water. The sound grew louder, rolling, rushing, building like thunder in the earth. Cole's stomach dropped. Flash flood. Rain must have hit up north. Mira grabbed his hand. We need to move, now. They sprinted into the caverns, the roar behind them swelling into a monstrous bellow. Water surged through the tunnel, devouring darkness as it came. Mira led him through twisting passages with the precision of someone who had memorized every turn. The walls shook. Pebbles fell. A cold spray hit the back of Cole's legs. Almost there. Mira shouted. They darted into a narrow alcove, climbing up a natural staircase of stone just as water flooded the space below with violent force. The cavern trembled. The shelf Mira had spoken of rested above them, a slim platform carved naturally into the wall. There, she gasped, pointing. Cole hoisted her upward. She gripped the edge, pulled herself onto the ledge, and reached into a tiny crevice hidden by shadow. Her fingers closed on something, a weathered, folded scrap of burnt paper. Cole joined her on the shelf, breath ragged as the flood roared below. Mira handed him the paper. This is what you gave me, she said softly. This is what Cade wants buried. Cole unfolded it with shaking hands. The writing was faint, smeared by water, but readable. Cade is stealing from the treasury. Evidence inside Depot Locker 3. If I don't make it, tell El Paso. C.H. Cole's blood ran cold. Mira, he whispered. I wrote this. Thunderous echoes rolled through the cavern, distant shouts mixed with the crash of water. Mira's eyes widened. They followed us. Cole folded the incriminating paper into his vest. No, he said, gripping her arm as torchlight flickered in the tunnel below. They cornered us. Voices boomed through the cavern. Marshal Hartley. Show yourself. Cade's voice. Getting closer. Mira's breath caught. Cole, What do we do? Cole drew his last bullet. Loaded it. Now, he said quietly, we show Cade exactly what he's afraid of. The cavern walls trembled as Cade's voice boomed again, followed by the clatter of boots and the scraping of rifles against rock. Shadows danced across the jagged walls, thrown by the torches carried by his men. Cole pressed the scrap of paper tightly in his vest pocket. Mira's hand found his, her grip firm, steady. Stay close, he whispered, and stay quiet until I say. They emerged from the alcove, stepping into a wider chamber where the torchlight revealed Cade's men spread across the cavern floor. The roar of the flash flood echoed beneath them, a constant reminder that there was no turning back. Cade stepped forward from the shadows, his silhouette tall and commanding, eyes fixed on Cole. You've been busy, Cole, he said, voice dripping with controlled anger. Trying to hide evidence, rewriting history. And now you've dragged her into it. Cole squared his shoulders. It's over, Cade. The theft, the setup, it ends tonight. Cade laughed, a harsh, humorless sound that bounced off the stone. You still think you can stop me? You're alone, Cole. You've got one woman and a flash flood between you and freedom. That's it. Mira tightened her grip on Cole's arm. We're not alone, she said, voice calm but hard. We've got the truth. And you're finished. Cade's eyes narrowed. The truth? He spat. You have no idea what that paper really contains. You think anyone will believe you? Cole took a slow step forward, every muscle tensed, revolver in hand. It doesn't matter if they believe me. It matters that everyone sees it. He held the paper high, letting the dim torchlight catch the edge. Cade's eyes flipped toward it, just long enough for Cole to see the faint glint of fear in them. You wouldn't dare, Cade hissed. Cole's jaw tightened. I already have. Mira stepped forward beside him. We came this far. You lost the leverage, Cade. You either confess or we make sure the authorities in El Paso see what you've done. Cade's hands twitched toward his sidearm, but Cole's revolver never wavered. The silence stretched, broken only by the distant roar of the flood. Finally, Cade's shoulders slumped. His voice was tight, controlled but resigned. Fine. You win this round, Hartley. But you think this ends with one paper? Cole's eyes didn't leave his old mentor. It ends when the law sees it, Cade. And that's the only ending that matters. A long pause, then Cade's men slowly lowered their rifles. Unease etched on their faces. Mira exhaled, gripping Cole's arm. It's done, she said quietly. Cole didn't answer immediately. He was still watching Cade, making sure the man couldn't spring another trick. Finally, he let himself relax slightly. For now, he said. But this isn't just about survival, Mira. It's about setting the record straight. About proving the truth. And that's what we're going to do next, she nodded. Together. The cavern echoed with the flash flood. The roaring water, a reminder that danger still lurked, but Cole and Mira knew they had won the first battle. Cade had lost the leverage, and the last train to El Paso had brought more than just danger. It had brought the truth.